Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing. If you're just joining us on the radio this evening, you're very welcome. You can text the show on 53106. But if you're watching us live across all of our streams, then a happy Friday afternoon to you. And I'm delighted to say Ross Sullivan is our guest this week. And alongside him is jumper twin Johnny Ward. Lads, this is the height of fashion. Well done.
Got the memo.
Very similar now.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You just bought this jumper though, especially for the show.
Yeah, we got rid of the sweat patches.
Yeah. Well, it is hot, and actually, we talk about the weather every week on this. How is the good ground affecting you and your horses at the moment?
Same, yeah, it's unreal. It's the weekend again. At Ferry House, I rang Brendan Sheridan. We had a nice horse entered in the maiden hurdle tomorrow, the auction maiden hurdle. And I rang Brendan Sheridan yesterday, and they were watering, like, end of February, like. And the sea Naces down was watering as well. It's just, I'd say a lot of fellas are pulling their hair out, and everyone since October has been saying, oh, it'll come, and when it does come, it won't stop, but still hasn't come yet.
No.
You know, so it's
I'm genuinely forgetting what it's like to have proper wet weather. Like in Dublin, the last 6-8 months, when does it actually rain? It's been almost no rain, like.
And for the middle of the season, like, it's just a lot of horses can't run, risking them on it. Like I said, we've a lovely big horse to run tomorrow, and you just couldn't risk him on it, because, like, for the sake of one day, nearly would have went close, but for the sake of one day, you'd be sick afterwards if you ruined him for the rest, because he's a nice horse going on. Like.
So the risk is that they'd get injured?
Yeah, mainly leg injuries, like, tendon injuries. You run a big, heavy horse on it. A lot of the flatbred horses will get away with it. Horses coming off the flat to go hurdling, they'll be fine. Lighter framed horses get away with it. But a big, heavy national hunt horse, like the horses that Willie Mullins would have, those big, strong horses that would have came from store sales or bought after winning their Pint of Pints, they're all big models, they're all good-looking horses, 16-2, 16-3, 17 hands. And it's okay, you get away with it on the day, but it's just the thing of not having them again. And it's okay, like I said, it's trying to replace those horses. It's so hard to replace them because they're good horses. Like.
Yeah. We've been asking this a little bit as the winter has gone on, but at some point this becomes a trend that it's hard to ignore. At some point people are going to start buying horses for good ground, taking the risk that there are going to be far more opportunities to run good ground horses than not.
Like Johnny says, like, there's been no rain, so like, we're hoping it comes, and everyone says it will come.
The pattern, Ross, is there's no pattern. I think that's, because if you, like, I'm 36 now, but the first 25 years of my life, I don't really remember many extremes at all. Now, maybe I'm just selectively forgetting, but in the last sort of 10 years, we've had like 2 exceptionally cold winters, ridiculously cold, -19 at the Curragh that we never saw before. Even in the past year, we've had the beast from the east, we had that ridiculous storm, we had heavy ground at Cheltenham, and then we had a drought this summer, but it didn't stop. Like, so there's basically been no rain of note in Dublin for about 8 months now, and it is frustrating if you own a horse that wanted heavy ground, you've had no chance. You've just been throwing money after money after money for nothing, and you can't really even go to England because they don't have it either. And I think it is worrying because you can't really plan, because there's no pattern to what's happening here. This year has been so extreme, and I do feel sorry for connections who've had big horses. Willie Mullins isn't running horses in bumpers at the moment, just not running them.
No, and for that reason they've been bought off the Point fields, lovely big horses, and they've paid a lot of money for them. And how do you can't justify risking them, and just you have to sit and bide your time and wait, and hopefully it'll change. But
racing is obviously, it's in terms of global warming, racing is way down the list, but you nearly start to think that every government, their priority, their number one government priority should be dealing with global warming, because everything else is secondary the way things are going. I really do think that.
Certainly the conversations that we've been having help to bring it back to you, because it has an immediate impact on people's ability to work, and it is one of those industries that's very exposed to vagaries of the weather.
Yeah, that's right. And there's no sign of it changing. So what you said about buying flat horses, it's an idea, but it's very hard to walk away from those good national hunt horses too.
Did the winter with no frost, did that, the way they say that the frost kind of can help get bugs out in cold weather? Yeah,
that's true. The bugs, that a week or two of hard frost kills everything. I actually read, Willie said it as well, that kind of a mild summer or a mild winter does affect a lot. But we've had very little frost. Like this year alone, I think I don't think we missed the morning. Often you'd have a winter there, you'd have like, of course last year was an exception as well, but often you'd have say random mornings that you'd get a hard frost at night, it would delay the morning, you'd have to wait till later on in the morning to get the horses out, get them exercised. But this year I think we have missed the morning. It's just been easy all the way through, it's been so mild.
We surely have a very wet summer anyway.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Ross, tell us a little bit about your decision to get involved in the game. What kind of inevitable, coming from the background that you come from?
Yeah, that's right. Born on the Curragh. My parents were involved in racing. My father was originally from Cork, but came up to the Curragh back in the late 50s, early 60s, and to be an apprentice on the Curragh. And he rode on the flat. He worked for Con Collins, his father, Michael Collins, and as an apprentice, and then would have progressed then from riding on the flat and going jumping then, and was a jockey for his younger life. And then when he got into the end of his career, he ended up going to Mick O'Toole and was travelling head mad for Mick O'Toole, who at the time was the Gordon Elliott of is the 70s, who was going to Cheltenham. He was having the Cheltenham winners, and met my mother there, and she would have rode in amateur races as well, rode a winner of a bumper in Cork, and kind of that's where it all started. Kind of it was in the family, so we naturally enough kind of it was there from the start. Yeah.
Do you remember, like, were there specific race days when you were a kid that you would go to? That would be a big family event?
Yeah, it was a big family. Like, my father would have been, like I said, we would have been brought up on the edge of the Curragh. Both of them would have worked very hard, and we would have went racing. Either my father would be working or not, and there was always ponies around. You know, there was ponies, and we didn't come from wealthy backgrounds, so there was either a pony borrowed or stolen, or begged, borrowed and stolen. But we always had ponies, and we were on the edge of the Curragh, which meant we could head off across the Curragh. There was no, you loads of freedom. And from there to hunters, and then it just progressed. As I got into my teenage years, I had the idea of wanting to be a jockey.
When did you realise that? Because that's interesting. Like, that's the bit that you're kind of like, it's a career path that you can literally climb up on the pony and pretend that you are being a jockey at the racetrack, which is like right over there.
Yeah.
It must be idyllic at the Curragh in that. You're surrounded.
Yeah, like every evening we used to come home from school, myself and my sister, and used to tack up 2 ponies and head off across the Curragh, and like you could go anywhere. Once you stayed off the gallops, Pat Kelly used to be, when we were there originally, there was a fella called Barry Langan, and we couldn't, like the gallops are off limits. Especially in the afternoon, and especially to a pony. Like, so in the afternoons,
it's like getting your bike onto Mondello and cycling around.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And we would get onto and canter up next to you, see a car coming. We'd try and disappear into the firs to try and get away from. Often got caught, got plenty of bollicans for it. And then as we got older, then the same thing. Got to 16. I remember being young enough in my 13, 14, and mad to ride out in a racing yard, and asking my parents, could I ride out in a racing yard, and eventually went over to Frank Berry, who was training at the time on the edge of the Curragh, the far side of the Curragh.
We only had his son in last week.
Yeah, Fran was in, was he? Yeah. So Fran would have been a couple of years older than me, was riding on the flat, was apprenticed to Mick Halford, I think, at the time. Fran was maybe 16, I was 14, and Frank was training about 40 or 50 horses at the time, was busy away, mainly national hunt, but had flat horses as well. And from there, really stayed in school, obviously right up to the leaving cert, but would have rode out for Frank and also John Mulhern. And
like every morning,
as much as I could fit it in.
Right.
If there was 8 days in the week, we would run out 8 days of the week, and
head to school.
And if I could go the weekends and school holidays. And then what happened was 16. Then to try and get as much in as I could, there was scooters, mopeds were popular at the time. I remember buying a moped because at 16, it was a quicker way of getting around. So you could ride out in the morning and then head in your scooter then into school, and be in, ride out one lot and head into school then to go to school. And at 16 then got an amateur licence, which was at the time, I think it's 17 now. And same thing, ponies were replaced by a horse, a thoroughbred. And it was again, nothing bought at the sales, we were given one, the same as the ponies. A friend of my parents had a horse, a filly, a 4-year-old at the time, unbroken, and hadn't got paid for her, was trying to sell her, hadn't got paid for her, and he didn't really want her because he'd brood mares, but he didn't really have horses in training. So he knew I was at getting an amateur licence, and it would have suited him, he used to take her away let Ross ride her in a few bumpers and get a bit of experience.
Who was training her then?
Well, we had her at home on the edge of the Curragh, and right next door to us was a man that trained. He ended up being on the Trainers Association. Was Jim Kavanagh, a relatively small trainer on the Curragh, tipped away with a few horses, and Jim. So Jim was right next door. So we got her going. Used to ride her out every morning before I go to school, and she ran on a 4-year-old bumper. It's
a proper blank canvas, isn't it? You don't know where you're going.
4-year-old bumper in September. 99 it was. I was 17. I was still in school, and she
weren't long after winning the All Ireland against Kildare. Actually,
shut up.
The following year.
And she was 4-year-old bumper, and she won first time out.
No way.
Yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah, and I was only after having 3 rides.
This is Seabiscuit style.
Yeah.
So fourth ride, first winner. I said, "This is easy, like."
And it is.
Go. Yeah. And that was like, she went on. She got injured afterwards. She ran once more. Didn't jump. Never was sound enough. That was another reason why we ended up there, because she was so crooked. Her conformation was very poor. But it was great.
Did you breed off her or anything?
No, she went back to the man that originally given it to us for me to race. Like, it suited him for us to race her away, maybe get a bit of form into her, and he was going to take back to breed off her. And that was the start of it. And finished my leaving cert. And
at that stage you're hooked, you know exactly.
Hooked, and thought it was easy. Thought like, 4th ride, first winner, sure, this is as easy
25% strike rate, happy days.
Here we go. This all I have to do is turn up. And finished my leaving cert and rode out for Peter McCreary for a little while as well, and then went down, kind of after my leaving cert, went down to Jessica Harrington and was there for 5 years. And that yard was only growing at the time. There might have been, at the time, 70, 75 horses.
And what's that life like then for you? Because like, you're not a professional jockey. You're
an amateur. Yeah. An amateur with maybe ideas of half going to turn professional somewhere along the way, which never happened.
Were you all right weight-wise now?
All right weight enough, just wasn't good enough. You know, all right weight-wise, would have managed, but...
Were you not good enough, or did you not kind of have enough of a shot at it, or?
I'd say probably not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, I rode winners for Jessie and got beaten plenty and was with her for 5 years. Learned a lot. I was there when the yard was growing itself. Like, we recently called down to see it there. I hadn't been down for 10, 12 years, 15 years. And they called in one day to see Kate, and she said, I said to her, would she show us around? And the difference in 10 years, like, it's completely, gallops-wise, the size of it, it's doubled in size.
She used to be one of the biggest dual-purpose trainers in the world.
Yeah, she's like, and at the time, when I was there, she might have had maybe 70 jump horses and 5 flat horses.
Now it's 70, whatever.
And now it's 70, yeah.
When you say you weren't good enough, so what could you pinpoint that in particular? Was it just in general, or?
How did you know?
Yeah.
I knew myself, and I obviously would have rode in bumpers and would have ridden a few winners. In my career, I rode 34 or 5 winners on the track and about 55 or 6 winners pint of pinting.
It's not bad at all.
No, it was fine. I won on the horses that were good enough to win, but the other horses that I finished second on, maybe they would have won with somebody else. You know,
strength or just different?
Yeah, maybe strength, and maybe just tactically. Not good enough, maybe. Do you know, like you said, it's easy. You kind of know yourself. Reality kicks in, like, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved it, addicted it, and I loved all about it. And after Harrington's, I went to Colin Murphy for a while and used to go down a couple of days a week to Colin Murphy. And in fairness to Colin, he was brilliant. Like, Colin rode winners for Colin. He gave me my first ride in Cheltenham. And
who was that?
A filly called Cheeky Lady. She was third in the King Muir on her in the amateur race. I actually broke my collarbone 2 weeks before it, and in a point. Yeah, she was actually. It was 16 days before the race. It was 2 weeks. It was on the King Muir. I think it was on the Tuesday. I was riding for Tony Mullins for Barry Connell in a pint down in Bennett's Bridge. Got a fall and broke my collarbone. And
not ideal.
Not ideal. And Colin rang me that evening. And he said, "You get a bad fall at the pint today."
No.
And I said, I did. I said, "I was bad fall." I said, "I bruised my shoulder," but I said, "It's fine." I said, and I was only going down maybe 2 days a week to him. So I said, "A bit sore this week." I said, "But I'll be definitely down to next week." And he said, "That's fine. I need you to school this filly." And I went to that cryotherapy. First couple of days had it in a sling, gave it a chance. Then went to read up about cryotherapy at the time, all this thing, and oxygen chambers in just off Jervis Street.
Yeah.
Done all that. And I remember the Friday before Cheltenham going down to school, the filly, and took up painkillers, school her down over fences, and it was fine. I got away with it, and went on to Cheltenham. And
Very honest to the trainer here
rode
now.
her afterwards. Yeah, it wasn't. She was third, but it was got away with it. But
Could she have
So
won?
not a man down in Michael that you should have gone down to see. So not a bone setter down in Michael? Not
I went down to him before with a bad back, and he frightened the life of me. I didn't go back again. Dan O'Neill, was it?
What was the girl who won the Fox Hunters last season? She
Popped her shoulder out.
popped her literally during the race, and she rode a finish kind of with it hanging off.
Yeah,
It was amazing
a lot of the time, I'd say maybe the same with rugby players and things like that. I'd say you carry an injury through that at the heat of the moment. Adrenaline's all built up.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same with jockeys. You've often heard this, like it was Katie O'Farrell was saying that she'd broke a bone in her leg and she rode on for a while afterwards. A lot of time you get through the momentum, and it's only when you go cold afterwards that you get sore.
Harry Tucker, one of 4 females to win at Cheltenham last year, and that one was the most dramatic because she was clearly in agony.
Shoulder popped out. Yeah.
We had Paul Carberry on the show last night, and he was saying that he had a hematoma burst.
He's a different level altogether now.
The last at Cheltenham, and one of the commentators was like, "Oh, look at the style! Look at his style!" And he was like literally saying that I had to I was just clinging on for dear life. But that's
Paul would be nearly another level.
Paul he was an Iron Man. Like I remember him riding in the weigh room, and he'd take off his getting changed, and he broke his collarbone that many times. It was just a lump, and it's just there, protruding out of skin on the top of his shoulder, and it doesn't even look any resemblance to a collarbone or anything. Lads, you see lads with broken collarbones and they grow back and they get a bit callous, but this is just a big lump of bone growing out the edge of his shoulder. Like he's.
And are you looking at that going, yeah, maybe I don't want to turn professional?
It was never anything to do with that. It was just probably didn't get a run at it and wasn't probably good enough. Yeah.
So what happens then? At that point, you're like, okay, obviously this is my life and I love it, and I'm.
I do love it, addicted to it, and racing was always going to be for me. So a career as an amateur is a nice way. You're not going to make any money at it, but you're riding out in the mornings, you're tipping away, you're riding out, and you're going to ride in bumpers, which I did for a lot of my 20s, and point-to-pointing as well at the weekends. Probably point-to-pointed a lot more towards the end of my career than I did at the start, riding more bumpers. And I suppose that was very, like, the one thing about racing actually from riding, and the one thing I kind of take from it all, and someone asked me before, is that you meet so many other people.
Yeah. I was going to say the thing about point to point, and that like certainly the penny has only dawned or dropped with me recently, is that the whole point of it is it's like a scouting system for good horses and for the industry, and like by plugging into that, you actually understand how everything works, and you meet everybody and you go, okay, well, if I want to buy, or if I want to become a trainer who people trust, then I need to be at these races and see, well, these horses are doing this is how
and the whole thing really goes full circle, like, because there's lads there that were in Harrington's at the time that are now training. Like there's a chap called James Dullee, so I would know him from our time in Harrington's. You'd meet him at the races, all that. You could name out loads of lads from different phases of your life when you meet them along the way, and it all comes back full circle. You're still meeting them again. They might have went different ways, you might have went different ways, and it kind of all just comes back around. So really, like I said, even now when you go and look at the training that I'm like, there's people that you would have met in your time and would have rode from bumpers. They still have horse in training. They might send you a horse. It all comes back around full circle. It's mad.
It's proper rural Ireland community as well, and if rural Ireland communities are under threat, racing is really thriving, and there's no real urban element to it apart from going to Leopardstown. It's proper rural Ireland, and it is a community that sticks together as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the decision to become a trainer, is that obvious to you at the time? Is it just a fairly
never
straightforward?
Obvious to anyone.
It's never obvious. With that filly that we used to have at home, there was always something at home. Because I had an amateur licence, you'd always have something to ride out, maybe in the afternoons or in the mornings before you were going somewhere. So there was always kind of a horse or two in the background. So that kind of progressed more to getting a yard and renting a yard, which I did take a couple of stables off Richard Pugh, and still riding as an amateur and still kind of putting your toe in water, really. And so started off doing that, kept the odd pointer, see how it went, and it grew really. And the first couple of years we were renting, like I rented off the Osborns from Naas, would have been Robbie Osborn's original yard. Paddy Osborne trained there, and then I would have rented off Dennis Cullen, Michael O'Brien's place, and then eventually we built a yard beside Ted. He gave us a site, and myself and Katie built a yard about 18 months ago. A purpose-built yard, and it grew, so it grew from like having 3 or 4 horses to now having maybe 35 horses.
Right.
You know, so it's progressed along the way.
Yeah.
You know, slowly, but it has progressed.
And obviously, that's the other side of this as well. Like, you need to be brilliant at your sport, but you also need to be a good business person to.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem. Like, there's so many good trainers out there, and there's so many they're after going. But financially, it's not. You're never going to get rich from it. It's a nice way of life, as Johnny says. It's rural Ireland. It's a farm. If you were farming, it's the same sort of way. It's something that you have to love doing, and it's 7 days a week. But if you love doing it, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of. It is rural Ireland. It is really much. And probably that's the biggest. I'm not like saying the biggest downfall is that it's something that you love doing. It's your passion. It's your hobby. But sometimes that passion and hobby can get in the way of what you're supposed to be doing, which is really running a business.
Well, training is very difficult to make money. Like,
yeah, well, there's no real money in training. You can survive. You'll get a wage, and you'll survive away, and you'll pay. You can, if you're careful with your books, you'll pay your bills and earn a wage, and it's a way of life. But that's the problem. Is, say, having the horse that shows you plenty, and maybe you're getting paid a bit slow for him, but you really like the horse.
Yeah.
So you're kind of cancelling it, and your heart is getting in the way, and they're the things that probably, you know, can be downfalls for different people, you know.
Generally, like, how many owners what percentage of owners would kind of be slow to pay in general?
I'm lucky. There's a couple of very good owners in the yard. They're quick to pay. And then you'll always have a couple of fellas, and that's the way businesses run. They pay maybe towards when the next bill is coming out. But you kind of have to keep it as tight as you can and not let a bill run too big. But it's tricky. It's just, like you said, if the horse is no good, you'll get rid of the horse. But if it's a really nice horse and he's slow to pay, you don't want to lose the horse because he's, you know, you're thinking of, well, this may be the one that could get you to go places, or you know. So that's when it gets tough. Given, you know, your heart rules your head there.
Given all the things that you know and the experience that you have, is there a point where you start breeding for yourself and you try and keep a few? Is that like...
No, not for me. Breeding is... Now, some trainers do it, and they've plenty of land. For me, it was nothing... I never did a national stud course, which is something probably wouldn't have done any harm to do. It's very popular, and it's a thing that you'd nearly recommend to a lot of people. It's only a 6-month course. A lot of trainers have done it, or a lot of stud people have done it. Breeding isn't... I love looking at pedigrees. I love going to the sales and seeing different sires, or comparing sires to their temperaments when you have them at home, the younger horses, and you say, yeah, he's by such and such. They're always a bit that way. Or they always, you know, they can be a bit funny, or they're always very relaxed. So that side of things fine, but going down breeding, no, not for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Just why not, actually?
I don't have the land for it. It's a totally different discipline.
Game.
It's a long game. I don't know enough about it. And really, looking in from outside, I shouldn't be even preaching about it, but looking in from outside, it looks like from the breeding game in Ireland, that you want to have a very, very good pedigree with everything going for it to be breeding. The problem in Ireland is at the minute is that if I have a filly for a man and I'm training a filly for him, and I said, she doesn't have much of a pedigree, she's a bit small, and she's not much good. And I said to him, listen, this filly's going to struggle, take her home. He sticks her in foal, and that's what's the problem.
That's actually you're bringing the breed down there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then he sends her to a stallion for a couple of grand, 3 or 4 grand. He keeps it for 3 years. He goes to the sales. It's small because it's hereditary. The dam was a bit small. It has no pedigree. The only thing that's kind of propping it up is a stallion that he's probably got at a relatively cheap price. And next minute he's standing there and he can't get a bid for it.
Yeah.
And he's going, why can't I sell my horse? Why won't people buy it? So that's the problem. So if you're going breeding, really, you have your... Like we've been Steph and Katie have gone to different seminars. Mark Johnson was over. It was very interesting to listen to. Like, he wouldn't buy anything at a sale unless, flat-wise, yearlings, unless the dam was a very good mare herself, or she has bred 80 to 90 rated horses. You know, you're not down the low-grade stuff. And I'd say it's the same. And, like, you've seen it in the sales results lately. Higher-end stuff is no problem, but lower-end stuff...
It just collapses into, like,
There's no one for them. They're giving them away.
Yeah.
You know?
That kind of all comes from prize money as well in Britain, that it's just not sustainable. Mark Johnson was even making that point today, I think, about Lingfield, that unfortunately in Ireland prize money levels are good. They're very good in France because they have a kind of a total monopoly system over there. But in Britain, it could cost you 2,000 to train your horse in the month, and then you win a maiden on the flat with a horse that's maybe 2 million, win a maiden, and you won't even cover your training fees for that month. And it's not economical at all for a lot of
we actually are very, 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 very lucky over here. Like, we have 2 English owners, or a couple of English owners with us, and the people that own our 2 best horses, Zorko Wentworth and Charles Wentworth. But they have their horses in Ireland and France, and the main reason is prize money. They had a lot of horses in England, but the same thing, like Johnny said, the transport costs, and there's no prize money. We really, really look. The prize money is actually very, very good in Ireland. Very, very good. It's a massive help, and that's what's keeping it. That's keeping it going forward, promoting it, and it's the same with France. But England is struggling big time. Very hard to convince. And like you said, even bringing a horse, like, I know some of the trainers are bringing horses to England, but even very hard to convince an owner to bring an Irish horse to England and run for 1,500, 1,800, 2,000, and then you're trying to, unless you're backing them, or it's it's very hard to go over and justify the cost of the travel, and then to run them for very, very poor prize money.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We are very lucky in Ireland.
Yeah, and even then, backing them, you're risking everything as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't go your way. A reminder, Friday Night Racing is brought to you by GoRacing.ie. Will you talk to us a bit about a couple of your more high-profile horses? So Thunder and Roses at the moment, and then, am I pronouncing this right? Bay des Isles?
Bay des Isles, yeah.
Bay des Isles, yeah.
Bay des Isles, yeah.
Who trained the horse?
My French isn't very good.
This was going to be a fairy tale story.
Yeah.
Early.
That national, yeah.
Picture there.
Yeah, she's...
That's Ross on the left.
She arrived as a late 3-year-old, just December before she turned 4.
Very white, isn't she?
Yeah, she's gone grey all the time. Her owners are Charles and Zorko Wentworth. They are an English couple that Katie sold a breezer to, and that's how the connection comes along. Again, like I was saying to you, it's all connections, how you meet people along the way. But Katie does the breeze ups, and she sold a Dutch art horse that turned out to be Casper Netcher.
What's a breeze up?
Breeze up horse is so you buy them in the autumn as a yearling at the yearling sales, and what they do is they prep them, they break them, get them going, and teach them to go breeze fast over 2 furlongs, sprint over 2 furlongs.
Basically flat out,
and it's gone into times. But it's also another option for an owner to buy a horse. He's cutting out probably the time of breaking them and preparing them, and the breeze up people bring them along, prepare them for them, and hopefully that they breeze well and then sell at these sales. It speeds up the length of time. If you have a syndicate of lads that don't really want to wait 6 months for that process,
so
they can go to the breeze up sale, which happen in
your eyes, you have your time, so at least
so you get to see them.
Katie's done well as well.
Katie's done very well. She's busy at it. It's something that she's done for the last maybe 6 or 7 years, and it's grown as well.
Is it a new thing, really?
Well, no, breeze ups went on for the last a long time, 30 years, but it has gone more professional and more into times now. But Katie's done well. That she's had a couple of high-profile sales, horses that have gone on and won. And
did she sell to them then? Or
yeah. So what happened was this horse that she sold was a Dutch art yearling that breezed very well and was bought at the sales by them through Tom Malone, the Bloodstock agent.
Tom Malone just bought a horse yesterday for 410 grand in the Cheltenham sale.
Yeah, Tom's at all the sales. Tom's he's unreal. He's some man, but he's buying plenty of winners. So this horse was bought and turned out to be okay, and turned out to be really good actually. He went on and was a very good 2-year-old and progressed away and was, he won a gym crack, and it was a very good 2-year-old. So that's how the connection was made. And then I was kind of starting up training at the time, and she was going to support. She said, "I'd give you a horse."
She came over as a 5-year-old. She was quite young when you got her. I remember
she was just gone 4.
Yeah, gone 4 even. I remember running.
The tricky part was that she was 4. She wasn't a novice over hurdles or a novice over fences, and she wasn't EBF qualified.
Yeah,
so when you go down to the programme of races, you're going, where do I start? It was actually only as time went along she got to catch up, or she was able to be eligible and catch up when she went chasing. So that was kind of when she was hurdling. That's what delayed us, and it was hard to place her. But she, like I said, she was been very good. She sent us that horse. They also bought Call of Magic, who was a young horse that we had. Jamie Codd, who my brother-in-law, who would have had him at the time as a young horse, and he sent him to me, and we were to produce him for a pint, and he was working unbelievable as a young horse, as a young horse. And he went and won his Pride of Pine, first him out by 25 lengths.
That's called a magic.
Yeah.
Beautiful jumper.
Beautiful jumper.
Gone out a bit to his lefties.
Yeah, and probably going to suit going. He was fourth in the Beecher Chase this year, and he's going to go back and go left-handed for Aintree again.
Why do horses go left, do you think?
He actually was a cheap store horse. He's got a dip in his back, which some horses, have. And he's, conformation-wise, he wouldn't be correct. So he probably always has ailments about him, and we try and keep him, he gets physio and gets acupuncture and all that. He jumped left the other day. He always did jump left, jumped more left than what he did before, and we had someone in looking at him the last couple of days. He will be way better going to Aintree and going left-handed for the Top and Chase on the Friday.
How do you train as a horse acupuncturist?
I think it's the same way as a human. We have a guy there that does, a fella from Meath, he goes to Gordon Elliott one day a week and he spends the day in Gordon Elliott's. So we only get him for a couple of hours in the evening times he's actually qualified vet.
Right.
And then he studied acupuncture and then went down to do horses.
Is that expensive?
No, it's the run of the mill of what all they charge, and somewhere between 70 and 100 euros. They don't, and that's what there's a lot of people out there that say there's horse physios and all those kind of different things. You just kind of try and help him, the horse,
Yeah. So it's obviously something you think works.
Yeah. I definitely. It's like a human, and it definitely works, because he ran this year in the Kerry National and was pulled up very sore or finished very sore. He was down the field and was very, very sore afterwards. And he had a couple of sessions with this man, and it was like a new horse. It's like a human going, the same thing.
Well, so humans, at least you can have a conversation. Look, there's thousands and thousands of years of Chinese medicine behind this. The horse is going, you've got big needles and you're sticking them in my ass.
Yeah.
I'm not really.
There's a lot of things with horses that you can kind of go back to humans. I think I know they can't talk to you, but they've all different personalities. Like you've angry horses, you've angry horses, you've happy horses, you've relaxed horses, you've horses that are very excitable, and it's the very same as it's the same as humans.
I think that's the beautiful part of the game that people don't understand, and I think in terms of racing's promotion, the way we cover racing on TV, I think we've only really scratched the surface with an awful lot of things in terms of technology. But I would be more bigging up the girl or the lad who looks after the horse at home, and what was he like this morning, what do you actually just like generally, and show some footage of them, because the bond that they have is unbelievable.
Without a doubt.
When you go on, when you own a horse, you have your own horse, and just to see, he might be a bit of a character, like Tiger Roll is a favourite horse in the yard, but it's that individual characteristics that makes the game so compelling, I think.
They're all
apart from gambling, completely out of gambling.
Completely out of gambling. They're all individuals. We start at 7:30 every morning, but I feed the horses every morning. I like going into the yard at 7:15. I like feeding the horses, because the first thing you do when you walk into the yard and you're walking along and you know your horses and you know what way they are most mornings, you'll pick up on it straight away. It's you go in to feed him, you say, geez, that fella's a bit stiff behind, or he's not happy in himself, someone's sweating under a rug, it's a bit too warm. You pick up all those things when the yard is actually quiet, those things in the morning, and like you said, you learn about your horses. I know as you grow and as trainers get bigger, and you have to rely on your staff, and that's why Willie and Gordon have so many good staff that are able to feed back the information. But for us who are a relatively small yard, I can do that myself and go through the whole lot of them, but definitely reading a horse, looking at him, being there, you know straight away.
Can you kind of give counselling, not so much give counselling, can you change a horse's sort of, if a horse is a bit of a so-and-so and he's very hard to deal, can you kind of nurse him? You can. There's all different things, and it's only trial and error as you go along doing it. So you have a horse he's a bit of a runaway on the gallop, he's a bit free, so straight away you'll go for a different type of bridle. You'll maybe try a chiffony bridle, which gives our jockey a bit more control. You'll put a hood on him, which deafens out the sound. You might put earplugs in him. Try all different things. There's different remedies. You can go to calmers. You'll like I said, for any horse that's shown ability and you really like him, you say, this horse is a nice horse, you'll drive to England, you'll go anywhere, you'll buy a product in Australia or America if you think it can help the horse, because the one thing you want to do is try and get the best out of him.
I was going to say, because obviously, like we know the super trainers, and we've talked about them, and you obviously have experience of working in Harrington's. Like, you are competing against them and Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins, and so you've got to do whatever it is. Like, where do you find advantage as a small trainer? What do you have to look to?
Yeah, like there's so many fellas like me. Like there's a load of lads like me that would have between 25 and 35 horses at the minute, and are very well able to do it. It's just trying to get the best of what you have,
and place them well.
And place them well, get them into their own bracket. Like you're not going to have the firepower of the big lads, so you're just trying to get the bunch of horses that you have. When a horse comes into the yard, you start off and you assess them, and hopefully then he progresses and shows you ability. If he's not showing you ability, you're better off just feeding the information back to the owner and telling them where he stands, because there's no point dragging it out. And then, as I said, as the horse goes along, then hopefully the horses, like I said, call it magic. When he arrived into the yard, he was a young horse, but straight away he showed that he was a classy horse. There was, like I said, his bits of work were always very good. And then, he went and won his point first time up with 25 lengths.
Are you comparing him with those bits of work with the other horse you have?
Yeah,
that's the
so
benchmark.
You'd be putting them together as each horse is going along. So obviously, the longer a horse is in, the fitter he's getting, the more work or faster work he's able to do.
Yeah.
And the same with the horses that just come in. So they're all doing their steady canters. Like at home, like it's gas. Like trainers, like we all talk to each other and we all try and learn off each other. So like in Kill now, what we would have is a 4 furlong round sand gallop, Wexford sand, deep sand, and it's and there's also a 4 furlong straight gallop. So I'd be at the races, you'd be asking Gordon Elliott, you'd be saying, you'd be asking the lads in Gordon's, what are you doing today?
State secrets here now,
you'd be sussing it out as you go along, and you'd be trying to learn all the time and compare. Like last week, I'd say I'm the biggest dose going, but last week we were at the weights launch in the English National, and I got seated beside a woman that is Fergal O'Brien's partner, but she trains with him together, and Fergal O'Brien's having a great season. But I must ask her about 40 questions. What do they feed? Are they on hair hills?
Yeah.
How many times do you go up the hill?
You're always learning, though.
But you're always learning. And if you don't ask those questions, you won't learn. So, you'll be always, if you're drawn beside someone, you'll be always asking, oh, what would you do with this, or what would you do that? You're always trying to learn.
I did a piece with Duncan O'Brien today, and he was talking about Joseph's Gallop in Pilltown now. Joseph's Gallop in Pilltown, there's a lovely family kind of story element to it, because it was Aidan's Gallop, and before that it was Aidan's father-in-law, Joe Crowley's Gallop. But Joe Crowley put in the gallop, Aidan tweaked it, and now Joseph's tweaking from Aidan, and you're kind of thinking Aidan's learning as well. There's always something different that you can bring along, and nobody will ever completely crack it, and I think that's the beauty of it as well.
Yeah, you're always trying to tweak it. Like a lot of lads, like they're very similar in one way, and then everyone's trying to do something a little bit different. But like,
are you ever tempted to go completely to be as different as you can, to try and
I remember Noel Meade saying one time that he brought one of these. He brought an athletics coach into the place, and. At the time, his partner Gillian was there, and he said most horses would cover a couple of miles in the mornings, you do a 2.5 mile or 3 mile canter, 1.5 miles one way, 1.5 miles the other way, in deep sand. But the fitness coach came in, and the horse was going 10 laps one way, 10 laps the other way, and he was. But it didn't compare. You have to try and keep like with horses,
Yeah.
But you're always open. Again, probably the main thing is health. It's probably a huge thing, and especially as Johnny said, with the mild winters now, you're always picking up little things. Health and fitness is probably the two key things. Deep gallops are probably what have come in. In England, it's gas. Like in Ireland, most trainers have the circular gallop. Like Willie has the circular gallop, Gordon has the circular gallop. Anyway, apart from Joseph. In England, it's all hill gallops. They all still get their winners. It's just different variations of it, but you can only compare like with like, and that's why Gordon Elliott would have a similar gallop to us, so you'd always be asking him and trying to learn off him. Yeah.
Jim Bulger's a hill gallop.
Jim Bulger's a hill gallop, yeah. There's a couple, but in England it's very popular. And now and again, comparing that, what the English trainers have started to do, you've Ollie Murphy gone to England, so he's going to do what he had for Gordon, and you have Dan Skelton put in a circle gallop. You've the Tizzards put up a circle.
Gavin Cromwell would freely admit that he basically copied what Gordon was doing.
Yeah,
but it's simply enough, if you're on the treadmill in the gym and you put on an incline, just it's harder, and that's basically you're just getting fitter without.
And the same with the deeper surface.
Yeah,
the deeper surface.
Willie's surface is
like
unbelievable.
Said, Willie's when normally of a wet winter, when Willie's woodchip gallop gets very deep, they can go down so deep that the fitness, the hardcore.
It's tough going.
Yeah, and the same with Gordon sand. It's 12 inches of sand. They have to work hard in it. It's strength and conditioning. It's building them up. And what you're trying to do is compared to soft to heavy ground, which of a normal winter they'd be running on, so they're able to handle it. And
even talking to Donica, Joseph and Aidan have very different techniques in terms of getting their horses fit because of the actual facilities available to Ballydoyle compared to what Joseph has. They just work differently, quite differently actually, and they're both getting very good results,
Yeah.
But they would train quite differently.
It is mad. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there with that career as it
Well, when we had Donica on as well, I think Donica will end up training as well. I think you'll have the three of them training horses in a maiden at the Curragh within a few years' time. And I think when Donica was on with us here with the weight issues that he has, I think you can tell that he's going to go down that road as well.
Yeah, that will be.
The ammunition is also a big key as well.
That helps.
It does, big time.
They've had a head start, but I suppose they've handled it very well as well.
Brilliant.
A reminder too, Thunder and Roses is in the Irish National Stud Racing Club, which has like 300 to 400 members, 400 quid for the year to join. So if people want to get involved in racehorse ownership, Thunder and Roses is good?
Yeah, he's fine. We got a surprise phone call in October, November this year from Cathal Beale, the National Stud, and he filled me in on the racing club. I didn't know a whole lot about it, to be honest with you, until he gave us the information about it. Thunder and Roses arrived to us. Katie won a national on him. It was great, in 2015. So I suppose that's maybe where the connection came along. I suppose that's why he came back to us. And he's a horse that was second first time out in the Point at the start of the season. We dropped him down in grade, so he was with his last trainer was Gordon Elliott. So he dropped from those competitive handicap chases off a high mark to go back point, and we were hoping that he'd find it a little bit easier. Those open lightweights, point. But having said that, the opens at the minute everyone's thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of horses of those high grade standards dropping back down a level, and they're all still competing against each other.
Yeah.
Like there's horses that Thunder and Roses is running against, and he's met them maybe last year or the year before on the track. But he's second or fourth. He was second the first day, he was fourth the next day, and he ran the other day on, again, I know everyone's talking about it, on good ground. He wants it very, very heavy. He's actually a slow horse. He wants 3.5 mile. He won an Irish National over 3.5 mile. And he's a good fun horse, and he might pick up a race there throughout the spring. If the ground was to turn soft, he's actually very, for all the training he's got over the years, he's actually a very genuine horse. Likes riding out, is a very, touch wood, a very sound horse. But the initiative is a brilliant one. I have a horse, the Thunder and Roses, the National Hunt horse, but there's 5 other horses with 5 different trainers. And like I think when you talk to a lot of people that are on the periphery, on fringes of ownership, they're a little bit nervous about getting into racehorse ownership. They're going, I don't really know, I don't know anyone in it. So this is kind of a way of paying your €399 or €400, whatever it is, up front, getting a feel for it, going racing. You're going to have 5 horses running for you all summer with every different trainer. There's an app that comes back with information. You get when your horse is entered, how your horse is training, how it's progressing. And it's a great initiative really to get people into racing, see if they like it, and then maybe they might go, Jesus, that was good crack, I really like that.
The other thing about that is technology has really helped in that, like WhatsApp groups and that. You can have your video, your information disseminated to 20 people straight away, your photo of the horse, audio from the trainer and all that, just like that. And you don't need to maybe go the 2 hours to see the horse.
And that's what happened Sunday. Like there was, before we went into the ring, there was, the lads recorded it on their phones, the guys for the National Stud, our chat with Patrick rode a horse. There was an after-race discussion. Everyone was sent to the owners. So if they didn't make it, they had their feedback straight away. Next day, I took him out, let him into the sand ring. He had a roll and a buck and a squeal. I took a video of it and straight away put it on the app, boom, straight to the owners. So it's like you said, as Johnny says, technology has brought it so forward. But it's a great way of getting people into racing. And what would happen is, what I think the National Stud are hoping to do is that maybe like when, say, a couple of people go and they enjoy their day, is that maybe they'll go, that was good crack. Do you know what? We might organise 5 or 6 lads and we might get into our own syndicate. So it's a great way of promoting racing. It's not going to, once you pay your upfront money, there's no hidden costs. And you're getting a taste for it and to see if you like it or you don't like it.
I think when Ross describes how he was born into racing, it's kind of like we're all Catholics or whatever we were because our parents were, and that's just the way we were brought up. But a lot of people would love horse racing if they actually gave it a chance.
Yeah, and it's the unknown, it's the scary factor, and the cost, of course.
And the buzz if you have a winner. Like.
Yeah, it's just getting the feel of it.
We're hopefully coming to soon.
Right, a reminder that the Tote Irish Interjockeys Charity Fund remains at €2,014.44 after Kiltullavic failed to fire, it says here.
Kiltullavic was disappointing, yeah.
Impressive winner Munley in the Red Mills Chase at Goran last weekend. This weekend the action comes from Fairyhouse and Nace. We have another €100 bet courtesy of the Tote to try and add to our tally. Johnny.
Yeah, I really, really like this horse, and I like handicaps, and I'm surprised this horse has been left in off 113, trained by Stuart Crawford up in Larne, which is probably an interesting place to be right now with all the Brexit talk, and an interesting place probably to train as well. Particularly, Stuart would send a lot of horses over to Scotland and the north of England because, like, I think Larne's only about 13 or 14 miles from Scotland.
He's close to the coast.
Yeah.
Closer to some of the northern tracks, yeah.
So it's like...
Which horse are we talking about?
It's Curious Times. So that's in the 405 at Naas. He won in Down Royal last time, which would be Stuart's local track. Actually, I hope it's his local track. In terms of miles, his local track might actually be in Britain. But, in any event, it's obviously in the Maze Down Royal, but this horse got £8 for winning that maiden hurdle, but I think there's a case to be made that he's seriously well handicapped. He was behind Canadier, who's a very good horse last season, and the filly he beat is going for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle at Cheltenham, Black Tears, and he beat her very well. I really, really like this horse, and it was funny, I was on a Racing Post show earlier, and we were coming to the end of the show, and David Jennings said, I really like a horse today. I really like a horse in the 405 at Naas on Sunday. And I said, geez, that's mad, so do I. And he goes, 3, 2, 1, name your horse. We named it together, and it was both Curious Times.
Hey.
So probably the chances are both of us will be wrong.
So 4:05 on Sunday in Naas.
Your local track.
Naas, again, watering.
Yeah, they're watering Naas as well.
Yeah.
And what's it called?
Curious Times. I've told you 3 times now, Ger. Curious Times.
Not great with names, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm not great with names either. I'd be always like the horse by Shantou or the horse by this or that.
I just can't see Curious Times on the... I've got the
405 at Naas on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 4.
Oh, that's...
ridden by JJ Slevin, who would be Joseph O'Brien's cousin and rider.
Yeah.
Okay, and what odds do you expect this to go off at?
Hopefully shorter than what we back it at, but it'll be an each way price, definitely. Yeah, it'll be 5, 6 to 1, hopefully.
Probably drifting now, did you tip?
Yeah. It'll be 10 to 1 now, but very good chance, and I think it'll be able to go out in front as well.
Okay.
He's only 6 years of age as well, I think, and just listening to Stuart after he won it Down Royal, he said all he's doing is growing this horse, so I think physically he's probably progressing.
Okay, Grant. Well, let's talk about some of the other races at the weekend that we do have cards for. So the 3 o'clock Naas on Sunday and the 3:35 are also races that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Naas, very small field for the chase. The 3:35, 4 runners. Again, this is down to the ground. It's actually not a bad race for Grade 3. The ratings of the horses is 2 rated 147, 148. Cadmium, William Paul Townend. He's 7 years of age. He beat Dr. Phoenix at Leopardstown last time, albeit over 2 miles and 5. And I just think he's a bit fresher than him. Dr. Phoenix had a bit of a more miss and hit campaign, and it looks a good opportunity for Cadmium. Again, Willie'd probably tell you that he'd prefer if the ground was softer, but everyone's in that boat.
Ross, are you going to every race meeting and thinking, okay, I need to see exactly what the form of all these horses are so that you can begin to plot your course throughout the rest of the season for your own horses? Is that what you're looking at those races for?
No, we'd watch every race, like, because we were just fans of racing, myself and Katie. So we'd be like, say, even though we don't have runners tomorrow in Fairyhouse, or we don't have runners, Ted, I think, has 2 runners in Naas on Sunday. So we'll end up probably going racing to Naas because it's across the road, even though we've no runners. And tomorrow I'll end up watching the racing. So you kind of unconsciously kind of build up. Without studying it, you kind of know the names of the horses, you know what's running, and then when you see it, it's, I suppose, because you like it and you're into it. When you start entering your own horses and you see the name as the entries come out, and you look at your own fillet and you go, and next minute you look down through the list and you say, oh, that's such and such horse, he was 4th last day, he was this and that. So I don't study, you don't go out to study it, but I would retain that information, but I wouldn't be, if you asked me to retain other stuff, I wouldn't be able to do it.
It's the osmosis of the industry, really.
Whatever you're interested in,
And so the 3 o'clock at Naas on Sunday is Novice Hurdle?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know Ross's view on this now, because there was a race last Sunday at Navan, a maiden hurdle, that was run at a really strong gallop. Rhea Time of Henry de Bromheads went out in front, and Milan native Jack Kennedy gave it a beautiful ride. He just picked it up, kind of just really, I suppose he trusted the length of the straight in Navan, and Rhea Time and a horse called Duach Traw went clear, and Milan native, who'd only run the bumper actually, Ross, before this, he was reasonably well backed on the day, but he picked him up and won easily. There were 13 lengths clear of third, but a week later he's turning out in a graded hurdle, which is interesting because as a general rule you would not run a young horse twice in a week, and Gordon's obviously happy with them and probably happy it's a good opportunity. Jigginstown want to get these young horses out, and I think he has a touch of class, this horse. It's probably not ideal he's run a week later, but presuming he didn't really have a hard race the last day.
The one positive about the horses running on, he'd always like in winter heavy ground to give a horse 3 weeks after his runs, but at the minute you actually can pull the horses out quick because the ground doesn't take that much out of them.
Yeah.
So when a horse runs on good ground, you'd often see horses run in Galway at the festival. They could run a couple of times, or in the summertime they could run a couple of days after the other. But if a horse runs in, because the ground, being good ground, doesn't take half as much out of them. When it's heavy winter ground, a horse, you always like to try and allow a couple of weeks recovery.
I remember at Navan last year we had a runner, and when they crossed the line, the horses literally, they'd already dismounted. They crossed the line and they walked straight into the parade ring.
Yeah.
It was probably the heaviest ground I'd ever seen at Navan, and Navan is heavy, and that actually seems like another continent at the moment from the weather we've had.
Definitely, yeah. But that they said winter ground, horses run on winter ground, and especially over an extended distance, always take a little bit longer to recover.
He's going to be a lovely horse, this fella, I think.
And where do we see him across the rest of the year? What happens to a horse that he starts to show?
Yeah, you see, this is the thing. So he only ran over hurdles for the first time last Sunday. He actually could be a bit of a wild card for Cheltenham if he were to win well on. I'm not even sure he's entered at Cheltenham, because maybe he isn't, but then he could go to Punchestown. But he looks a horse with a very bright future. But Cheltenham is a bit strange this year because it's there aren't that many really strong fancies. A lot of the races look more open than they normally would, but the Irish Challenge isn't going to be as strong as normal, I think.
Okay, the Bobby Joe Chase at Ferryhouse on Saturday at 4 o'clock. This is a good field.
Yeah, and obviously honours Bobby Joe, who's a horse that's probably one of the first horses I remember, because he was owned in Montbellew, which is more or less my local town. He was owned by the Burkes there. They actually have a statue of him in Montbellew now, and if you're particularly inebriated after a night out, it's not unknown for you to get up on the statue and ride him out. And one lad actually did this in very cold weather, and he had to be rescued because he was stuck to the horse. won't name him. But obviously Presenting Percy was the big entry here. He's not going to run. I'd be tentatively with Rathvinden. Won the 4 miler. He's a very, very good horse. Paul Townend's riding him. It's hard to believe he's 11 years of age now. He's it really is hard to believe. Magical Light is interesting as well, obviously. She's had an excellent campaign, but Valser Lido, Outlander, Alfred Azobo representing Jigginstown. Alfred Azobo ran an absolute blinder in the tie yesterday's. He should have his chance as well, but I'll be with Rathvinden.
I think Rathvinden has to run in this race to qualify for the English National as well.
Yeah.
So I'd say Willie has a half an eye on the English National with him. I know when we were saying we were over last week at the weights launch, he was keen on him.
How does that work? So you've got to, in terms of qualifying for the national, you just need to...
The conditions have changed in the last couple of years, but he has to run over, in a current, I don't know the exact conditions, but he has to run over an extended distance of 3 mile. I think there was a thing last year where the Leinster National was on an ace over 3 mile, and an ace was called off, and they ran the same race in Gorn over 2 mile 7, a furlong less. And there was horses that weren't eligible then, they had lost out. So there's different conditions that they come out with now, and this was one of them, that a horse has to 3 mile plus, I think within the current season. So that's the reason I think Willie was keen to get a run into him.
Maybe that makes sense if talking about horse welfare. 2:15 Saturday, the juvenile hurdle here.
Yeah, it's another tricky race. The Irish juveniles look way ahead of the English this year. Certainly Joseph O'Brien's crop do anyway. I think Joseph could have the 1, 2, 3 nearly in the Triumph if he actually wanted. Farage being a small bit disappointing for Willie. He might actually deliver here. He's probably a horse we haven't seen the best of. He was behind Carlo Baraghi, who was another horse ruled out at Cheltenham actually this week. And Autorizo, the horse of Gordon Elliott, he was actually quite impressive last time at Ferryhouse, with Rhea Time in third. He's probably the horse to beat.
All right. So your tip this week? is
Curious Times. That must literally be the 5th, 6th time I've... people at the very least should remember the name of it. But Curious Times, it's been a curious times this year with the weather and all that, but I think he's a great chance.
You've done a great job as jumper twins today, lads. Thanks very much.
They're remarkably similar, like it really is.
It's as hot in here as it is outside, so...
Yeah.
That'd be fair, my one.
Yeah.
Ross, great having you with us.
Thanks,
a million,
Jar.
and best of
Thank
luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
That's Friday Night Racing for you this week. We'll be back next week. A reminder, Friday Night Racing brought to you in association with GoRacing.ie. If you are going to Ferryhouse this weekend, or indeed if you're thinking about any time you're going racing, check out the website GoRacing.ie. We'll see you soon. Good luck.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Go Racing.